Welcome to The Conscious Cut. I'm your host, Hoi Ki Liu. This podcast is all about rethinking sustainability across fashion, lifestyle, and everyday practices. Through conversations with entrepreneurs, policymakers, educators, and changemakers in Hong Kong and beyond, we'll explore real solutions, from industry-wide policies to the small habits we can all adopt. Let's cut through the noise and create meaningful change together. Welcome to the Conscious Cut podcast. I'm your host, Hoi Ki Liu, and today we have with us Ms. Karen Ho from WWF Hong Kong. The reason I have Karen as our guest here today is because she's impressed me multiple times. In all the different panel discussions that I've met you at, I've seen you at, you are the only presenter that doesn't repeat your presentations. You always have new insights, new ideas, new thoughts for us to think over and to, really ponder over how we can do better, which I think is exactly the way it should be, because in being environmentally friendly, it's an ever ongoing process. There's no this is the deadline, this is how you do it, and this is right. So I love how you're always inspiring us with more and something new and something fresh. So, and also she presents it in a really human-centric way. So anybody can get it. We've been to so many panels where it's kind of like, what are you talking about? And you see all these confusion on everybody's faces, but yours is so direct and to the point. Actually, there's one that really hit me that I still remember. You came in and it was a morning discussion, and the first thing you said is, did you guys have breakfast this morning? How many of you bought breakfast from a restaurant and had all your takeout cutleries, McDonald's, about the straw, about the cap? So that really stood out to me too. And I thought, it's something that's so simple, but really people don't think about it, right? Like that. I remember you saying how McDonald's had changed the plastic cover for the lids because they were banning straws. So they had this other extra little thing, which is so useless and unnecessary, right? Why do we do this? Why do we take one change, and instead of changing for the better, we're just changing for a different problem. Yeah. So I'm really happy to have you here today, so let me give you a chance to introduce yourself first. Can you tell us about your background and your role here at WWF Hong Kong?
So first of all, thank you for all your good words. I guess why I'm so connecting to the audience is just because I'm another layman. So I like to put things simple. My background, simple. I studied business and I got an MBA degree. And I started working for a multinational company. And interesting enough, I started with disposable packaging companies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then I worked in one point of time, factories in Yuen Long, industrial estates, and produced all the disposable paper cups, plastic lids, plastic straws. And I always told my colleagues today at WWF saying that I'm just here to buy back my dreams. I've done things wrong long time ago, and then I need to get it fixed now. But interesting enough, I see the environmental issues it's an evolving issues. Like back in 80s, 90s, the economy in Hong Kong is really flying, and then everybody is looking for efficiency. They don't have sufficient time to really sit down and eat, and then that's why the disposable packagings are so commonly available. And then you see all the fast food caterings, and it's all, I would say, established around that point of time. But of course, time goes, and then people are more aware of environmental issues, plus the fact that the problem that's created by no matter the plastics or burning fossil fuel or what else, becoming bigger and bigger, and it's hard to solve. And now that it's really time for us to change our lifestyle. So at WWF, currently I'm at the capacity of head of corporate and community sustainability. And in a sense, I like to connect the corporate world together with the corporate to really tackle the issues to first understand what the issue is and then collectively brainstorm new ideas or solutions to really address the challenges that we have today. I'm pretty confident that we create the problems.
Yes.
And then we should have the ability to solve it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really like how you guys bring corporate and community together because very often it's very separated, right? Like, how's this business going to be more green? And how are you as a person going to be more green? But really, it all needs to start from the person because you can be working for a company that cares, but if your staff doesn't care, it's really hard to translate this into actual everyday practice. So I realize often there are panels where you'll see the head of companies there, but more and more now, they'll start to have their staff involved. And I think that's when it really shines through what you have to say. It's connecting with the public in general. So they're understanding this not as just something that they have to do for work, but something that we all have to do. We just have to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess that brings also a lot of value to the company. Like what you say, company may have formal functions like sustainability units or corporate social responsibility. But in order to really protect your company's image or to reinforce the messages that your company wants to communicate with the audience, it is not only the responsibility of that unit. It's not only the responsibility of the CEO or the senior management. It's everyone that works for the company. Yes, we see every employee in an organization or in a company are an ambassador of their company. So by more engaging your employees, get them more educated, it will really bring a lot of value to your company. And then when you want to communicate with them your long-term vision, say a lot of companies are now pledging for 2030, we need to reduce half of the carbon emissions. And then by 2050, we want to be net zero. And you can imagine if someone come into one of your employees, not to mention that they may be of junior level or middle level, only that they ask what's your company's strategy or visions of tackling climate change. And if that employee cannot answer it right or cannot answer it according to the strategy that the company have devised, then undermines a lot of your communications and undermine a lot of the public confidence in terms of your pledging against the social good or against some climate actions.
Right. I totally agree with that because that's what's exactly happening way too often these days. We all understand what we're supposed to do, but then somehow it trickles down and the message just disappears or it gets lost. Okay, also, with the environmental impact now, I'll also like to see what are the most significant challenges Hong Kong faces in terms of climate action and how is WWF Hong Kong addressing them?
Yeah, interesting enough, I recently have the chance of presenting the current assessment of Hong Kong's goals towards net zero to one of the foundations. And then I do my homework and then I review all the government's targets as well as the latest statistics. Guess what? We basically are falling quite a lot behind. Like the pledge from the Hong Kong government in their Climate Action Plan 2050, they did mention about they want to have 7.5 to 10% renewable energy target. But right now, we only achieve 0.8%.
Right.
So it's far, far behind. Concerning electricity use, you know that we need to reduce our electricity consumption in order to really drive the GHG emission down because over 60% of our cities' emissions are generated by electricity.
Yeah.
So this is very important that we hope that the Hong Kongers can reduce their consumption of electricity. But of course, we also understand that in recent years, there's a lot of hot days, there are a lot of extreme weathers, and we don't expect people not turning on their air conditioning.
Yes.
Resulting that the electricity use, we don't see any drop of usage.
And I guess when it comes down to the individual, like you said, sometimes people are like, oh, it's really hot. It's just like our family. We deserve to turn on the AC. You have that. And you're like, I shouldn't have to like totally suffer just because I care. But at the same time, I guess it comes down to, this is where we say like corporates can do a bit more, because when we're talking about the AC issue, what I always find is it's the worst when you go into a shopping mall or office buildings.
Yeah.
Why is it so cold? It's so cold, right?
There are a lot, a thousand of reasons why they cannot turn it higher. Part of it is because of the old retrofitting kind.
Yes.
They said the system is old, and then whenever we want to turn it a little bit higher, then we take time to get the temperature up. But anyway, apart from the electricity consumptions, there are also other, what I want to say, indicators that signaling that we are not meeting any standard. The other large chunk of emission is from transport.
Yes.
And then the government say that, okay, we also want to popularize electric vehicles. And of course, we understand that electricity generations from Hong Kong are still, part of it is still from fossil fuel. But anyway, it may be better for us to all electrify our vehicles such that when we have ability to change the fossil fuel, then even the transport sector can be benefited. But what we see along these years that governments are talking about electrifying vehicles or transport system, we did not see a single increase of electricity use in the transport sector.
Oh, really?
Majority of them are still by MTR. And then we don't even see, because you know what, it's also very interesting that when you see the target of the government, they mention about how many number of vehicles that will be converted to electric vehicles. And they're not talking about the public use. Yeah. The fuel used by the vehicles. We wanted to change from petrol or heavy oil down to
diesel or back to electricity.
And then back to electricity. So what I would like to say is maybe the measurement is, need to be adjusted.
Yes, it needs to be adjusted. And I think there needs to be transparency and clarity on exactly what we're measuring, how we're measuring, and that needs to be translated back to the community. Yeah. Because in general, I think when we talk about lowering carbon emissions, the general public still doesn't really understand what they can do. Besides like turning on the aircon less, switching off all the lights, using less electricity, but there can be definitely more that can be done.
And then the third area a general public can really do is about a very, very hot topic, waste reduction.
Yes. Also, waste reduction is huge, but I also actually want to go back quickly to transportation, because that was one of the things that you mentioned. So Hong Kong being such a tight packed city, with the amount of cars and public transportations we have, definitely I don't know the actual numbers of the data and the statistics, but I'm going to assume at least half of the population here rely on public transportation.
I guess more than that.
Maybe probably more, right?
Yeah.
So if we just change the public transportation sector, that should be already a huge change to the energy consumption, the carbon footprints.
Well, the public transport sector are starting to do something. To start with, MTR are using electricity already. Right. But what I want them to do more, maybe they could build more solar system on their properties, such that the electricity used in the MTR system are actually from RE, and that will be perfect.
Yes.
And then secondly, about the bus. Yeah. I understand some of the company are already starting to use some solar. And of course, right now, I would say the percentage is not satisfactory, but at least they are aware of that, and then they start to do something. And I guess the government needs to also facilitate the things.
I think I've seen that, like buses where the whole roof was those what's it called? Suddenly lost my track of bands.
Yeah, the solar panels.
Right. They have it all on the top of the buses. I've seen a few, but like it's very rare.
But that's only generating small amounts of electricity.
Because it's
But
such a
you know
small
what?
thing.
Are we aware that some of the buses that are really electric bus?
So this was the thing. I recall seeing the news about China at some point. This must be a few years ago. I want to say it's probably before COVID even. They're using buses that's run by electricity, and as it runs, it takes the air and it's like an air filter. They're saying it runs instead of creating like carbon, it filters the air. It's cleaning the air. It's just driving.
Is it really?
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. I was like, well, what happened to those buses? Because it sounds too good to be true. Like, imagine if every bus cleans the air here.
I've never heard about it. The reason why we support electric buses is that, if we are doing fuel combustion type of vehicles, whether it's buses or trucks, when you burn the fossil fuel, when you burn petrol or burn heavy diesels, then there will be roadside emissions. What we call NOx or SOx, of emissions. And of course, that will pollute the air.
You feel it instantly if you're standing in a bus stop.
Yes, and that's bad. And when your bus or vehicles or car are being filled by electricity, then you don't have that combustion process. And in that sense, there's no NOx or SOx created. And that's why the air quality will become better.
Right.
So I'm not sure whether it's because you changed the electricity bus and then they filter.
It's like only all the buses like that, our air would be clean.
Right. But one thing very important is using electric vehicles, cars, or buses on the roadside definitely will help the roadside quality. And then the people that waiting bus or waiting for vehicles will be in a more comfortable situation.
Yeah, and that's what we're all striving for, right? It's like besides you want the world to be a better place because you just want to be more comfortable in the space, right? Why wouldn't you want that?
Exactly, and that's why I'm quite impressed that some of the bus companies already procure, of course, not a lot of number, maybe within 100 electric buses. And then in terms of technology, double-deckers are also having electric models available. And interesting enough, last time when I was in London, I see all the double-deckers, and then the brands are actually from China. And then I said that, the manufacturers in Shenzhen can export all their double-deckers to the
UK. Why not to
Let's go back to the waste.
Yes, the waste that everybody, I think this is the easiest thing that everyone should be.
That an individual can do, but however, you know that the waste charge are pending.
Yes.
And then actually the waste management in Hong Kong, the municipal solid waste are being used to landfill.
Right.
And then methane will be generated.
Yes.
And methane is a very carbon intensive gas.
Right.
It's probably 21 to 25 times of carbon dioxide. So that means if we emit 1 ton of carbon, if we emit 1 ton of methane, it will be equivalent to 21 to 25 tons of carbon dioxide.
Right. So that's really where the focus should be at.
Exactly. Yeah. And then in the Hong Kong's GHG emissions profile, about 8% of the GHG emissions are coming out from waste management.
Right.
And that's why we are so keen on having this waste charge passed.
Yes.
Because we also see a lot of success cases in other cities that once the city launched a regulation saying that you individual or household need to pay for your waste, then the waste amount will significantly reduce.
Yeah.
So it is still a battle to go.
I see this as a few things, right? Because, I mean, it almost seems like I'm going off topic, but I'm not. I went to talk to a group of students about how, like what I'm doing, garment manufacturing, how like large garment manufacturers, how do they downsize? How do they switch, And instantly it's like, it's ingrained even in the children's minds. When they're saying, oh, you want to downsize like a large scale, like a production space or whatever, then what's going to happen to all the workers? Everyone's going to lose their jobs. And that's a similar, I'm saying it's not far from what we're saying right now, because this is a similar excuses that we're hearing. It's like, oh, you want to change the way you're collecting rubbish. What about all the cleaning staff and all those workers that does this for a living? And you're just kind of like, there are ways around it. Like this is all soft skills. They can learn new skills. They can actually learn how to, still take your charge with this charge. But I think that's the conversations that's missing between the government and the public. Is how can you make this change? Like the government is just saying, oh, we need this change. You guys figure it out, everyone do it. And everyone's like, oh, but there's this problem, there's that problem. And this is why it keeps getting pending, because there is so many problems that no one's talking about how to deal with in between the switch.
And I guess the last conversations between the general public and the government, I guess the focus are all wrong.
Yes.
Because everybody's talking about buying the garbage bags. Only at tools assisting you or facilitating you to measure the waste created by yourself.
Yeah.
But the whole conversation boils down to,
we better throw everything that you might not want now quickly before the change.
And then I may want to throw away my waste at midnight.
Yes. Nobody else. They were taking away the garbage cans, garbage bins on the roads, fearing that people are gonna stuff the garbage in those. And then for a period of time, I remember there was like no trash cans on the road. Like, I don't want to say it's wrong. I know in Japan they do it, and which makes people really realize they're responsible for the garbage. You can't just throw it out anywhere. Like you take your garbage with you and you deal with it at home. But I can see, but it's just such a quick and drastic change. Again, this stuff really, I guess it turns off the public, right? It makes them think that it's not a great thing. So it needs to be step by step. It needs to have clarity, and it needs to be explained on how. It needs to be more thoughtful, right? Like how it's presented, I guess.
This is exactly the challenge in Hong Kong. Everybody's the life are so quick.
Yes.
The fast pace. And then people listen to something and then reacted very fast. And then without having a deep thought of it, without really holistically looking into the issues.
Yeah.
And then without looking into all the solutions. And then, we object it.
Yes. Here's a bunch of problems. You don't want it. Yeah.
No, and then when the government are faced with some pressure, then they step back and then say, oh, maybe we want to restudy it or hold for it. And so this is exactly the environmental challenge, I would say, in Hong Kong. People are so educated.
Yeah.
And then Hong Kong is such a wealthy city. I'm shameful that we do not pioneer some new solutions, whether it's for climate, whether it's for waste management. However, because people are so fast-paced, and then people tends to not focus or not wanting to spend their time into these issues or into this kind of topics when at their leisure time. Usually people would just lay slow and then enjoy life during leisure without really thinking of how they can actually contribute to improving the environment.
I feel like also in Hong Kong, people, even when we're taking it slower and enjoying, we still want the efficiency and the convenience. So people are always just going for what's convenient, what's efficient. And that is so ingrained in everyone's minds that, productivity is number one. And like everything else can take a step behind, but that's absolutely not the way to move forward.
I think that's the DNA of Hong Kongers. But at the same time, I do have a dilemma. Like a lot of Hong Kongers like to travel to Japan or travel to Taiwan whenever they have a long weekend. And then I ask many colleagues or friends, what do you like in Tokyo or what do you like in Taipei? And then they enjoy the environment, they enjoy the the environmental protections or kind of initiative that the people have there. And then I asked, I follow up with a question very bluntly, and I said, what do you think if every one of us contribute a little bit of our efforts to really improving our neighborhood, where you spend, I would say, more than 200 days a year, and then turn it into an area similar to Tokyo, similar to Taipei, and then you don't really need to get relaxed.
Yes, go away because you need to relax at a green space. We have that here. Like, it's actually all in our backyards. I almost drove up to the beach and I went.
Yeah. But sadly, a lot of people can't even articulate it.
Yeah. They just know what the difference is. But they very much know what the difference is, but they don't see the steps that they can take to make this place.
Yeah, they don't believe in themselves, I would say. They don't believe that the little work or the small tasks or the small steps that they made could really change the neighborhood or to change the hometown that they live.
So one of the things, I also ask some questions every now and then. And like, to be honest, the last time I went to Japan was over a decade ago. I know this is like the second hometown for most Hong Kongers. Everyone thinks I'm weird, but I really haven't been back to Japan for quite a period of time. But often my friends, I do have a bunch of friends that goes annually, for a ski trip or whatever. And I will occasionally, like, sometimes the reason I know about this, there's no trash cans in Japan, is because I've heard people complain about it. Like, I shouldn't say complain. They've mentioned it in passing with no complaints, actually. Okay. Like, oh, yeah, this is how Japan is. Then why isn't this how Hong Kong? Like, you can just accept that this is how Hong Kong is too. But the moment we took away the trash can, it was like, this huge dilemma. Like, how can I live in the city anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
So it is about how everyone takes care of their own home and their own space and their own place. But somehow when we get back here, it's like the daily grind, right? And everyone just wants to do what's easy.
So WWF in Hong Kong, actually what we are trying very hard to do is really bring back people to nature. You probably know us a lot. We have conservation site, we have Mai Po, we have Hoi Ha, and we have Island House.
Yes.
There are very, very naturally beauty conservation site. And then we really want to bring people out of the building and then get them back to the nature.
Yeah.
And then let them enjoy and then let them interact with the nature, and they will feel the beauty.
Right.
We hope that when people reconnect with nature, and there will be a lot of ideas, or at least giving them back some of the courages that they can do something better for Hong Kong.
Yeah. And realize they just need to connect back to nature. Like, you can't always just have your mind in the city doing city things. Like, our city is very much built upon the nature. That's why we've got, like, so much green in our city. Our whole backdrop is filled with mountains. Yeah, we've got the best hikes in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Actually, Hong Kong people are very lucky.
We are very lucky.
We are very lucky because we can go to the countryside in half an hour or 1 hour.
We've got beaches all around us.
Country park, got wetland.
Yes.
We even have a lot of iconic species.
Oh, okay. I see. I know we have some in Hong Kong. I just don't know how much is left. I remember 2 years ago when we were doing Flag Day, me and my son did a bit of research because we wanted to, we didn't just want to sell flags. So when we did Flag Day, he had a little A4 poster printed out with different shots from actually WWF's Instagram page. So he just he put together a grid of like 12 shots that he liked from the WWF Instagram that he wants to tell people a little bit about, like, why should you donate to WWF Hong Kong? So these are some of the things that they're doing. And the thing he was really excited about, but he couldn't go to at the time, which I believe he's going this year for school, is the mangroves. Because he was too small. He was too young, but so he's done the Mai Po, he did the Hoi Ha one, the boats. So I think this year he's going to the mangrove and he's super excited about that. So is he going to see new species? Like, new species, Hong Kong species in the mangrove? Should I tell him he's going to see something?
I hope so. But well, Living Planet report that WWF International publish every 2 years. We have a very set figures that we have about it's about 69% decline in number of species since 1970s. So it's not an encouraging number.
Right.
And then with that as a backdrop, our team in Hong Kong also produced a conservation report reviewing all the local biodiversities as well as the species. And then my conservation colleagues will publish this report probably by early March.
Okay, yes.
And then it's with the name of species at risk. They really want to draw attention to the habitat change or the environment or the threats that these species are facing right here in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And then riding on that, of course, not everybody, I just mentioned Hong Kong people are so busy and then they won't spend time in digging into a scientific report. We will, in parallel, run a social campaign. And then the social campaign will be with the name of I Live Here Too. We want to speak out from the animal, saying that they also live here. It's not just Hong Kong people living here. So I hope people will join the campaign. And then by April this year, we will have another street fundraising. We are selling flags again. And then the flags will be featuring the endangered species.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope that by all these kind of engagement activities, we will be in connections with the Hong Kong people, bring their awareness up to local biodiversity, and at the same time, hopefully they will lend support to conserving the environment as well as changing their own lifestyle in order to help a little bit on the habitat.
That's so good, because I think one of the things is when people think about WWF, they don't think Hong Kong. Even though when we're talking about we're selling Flag Day for WWF Hong Kong, that's why my son thought I need to tell people what WWF Hong Kong is doing. Because otherwise, for the general public, when we're like, oh, would you like to buy a flag and support WWF? They think we're talking about internationally. I feel like it's so far away from them. Like, oh, what does the African animals have to do with me here? And then they might just walk back. But when we feel like actually we're talking about locally in Hong Kong, what we need to do, and there's so much we can do here that we can save and protect and actually even revitalize, really. Yeah. So that's really exciting to hear. 2 Flag Days this year.
Yes.
April and June. Yeah.
Right. And then the interesting story that I want to share is some of our colleagues, well, probably it's quite a bit of time ago. Her name is with Catherine, and then she's a colleague with me in Maple. And then she needs to monitor the bird species.
Right.
And then one of the way that we tried to monitor the birds is to put a ring at the leg of the birds and then with a number. This is a traditional way of monitoring birds, such that when the birds are migrating to other countries, bird watcher can really take a look at that and then report back that they can find this bird with the number as indicator. And by that sense, we can track the path of the bird and understand their lifestyle, as well as staying how many days in which wetland or staying how many days in which locations.
Right.
That's the very, very traditional way. And of course, with the digital advancement now, if have resources, we'll put some very, very small, lightweight satellite on the back of the birds.
Right.
And then instantly we will know how the bird's trajectory will be like. But going back to the story of Catherine, she tracked many, many birds. And then in one of her vacations back in Australia, and she go also hiking as well as doing bird watching. And then she find the birds that she raised in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And she's so lucky. It's so amazing.
That's nice. Her and the bird are meant to meet again.
Yeah, and it's a very, very impressive story. And if you ask me why I can sustain my work life in WWF, it's the everyday stories that I heard from my colleagues, and it's the passions that the WWF colleagues exert. And then I guess if I have time to talk to each of my colleagues, they manage to have a lot of stories to tell me, and it's a very, very interesting organization.
So I'm sure even like having somebody else send you guys back pictures of the bird you tag, it's already very like, yes, someone caught it, right? And you catch it yourself again.
Definitely.
That's crazy. All right. So I guess we've kind of gone through the community engagement and the Flag Day. I want to get a little bit deeper in, because we were talking about business and community. What about youth involvement? How does WWF involve youth? I know like you guys, like my son's school have reached out to you guys, but I don't know how. He goes to a private school, so I don't know how it works with public schools in general or just education in Hong Kong.
Well, we do have a very strong educational team, and they reach out to schools to give school talks or to conduct any activities. And at the same time, we do have a regular program with the name of One Planet Youth. Students can come to our conservation site either to help us as a citizen scientist, they can be involved into conservation projects.
Oh, so is it a little bit older kids, like research students, or?
I would say depending on the task that we assign them.
Okay.
Some of the tasks that really simple is about removing the invasive species.
Yes.
Like removing the macadamia from the trees.
Right.
Well, I'm sure that.
And first, I guess you have to understand what is invasive species, because there's oftentimes people are just like, oh, don't touch nature. This doesn't belong here.
All right. Of course, if we have the engagement activities with the students or with the youth, we will explain to them the local biodiversity, the native species, as well as the invasive species, and then have them volunteering to help us to do the removal of the invasive species. So that's one kind of very easy task that they can do.
Right.
From all the students or youth that really want to learn how to research on the nature, on the biodiversity kind of things. We do have another program like they can help us measure the growth of mangrove or any trees.
Okay.
So they just need to help us measure the diameter of the trees regularly and the tallness of the trees.
Okay.
In order to calculate back how the growth rate of that trees are like.
Oh, and that's simple enough. It's like teaching kids how to take data and make statistics out of it.
Exactly. Okay. So these are kind of simple things that kids as well as youth can be involved. And of course, for some university students that like to plan their career into conservation or environmental science, they may join our internship program. And then we have different departments, and then depending on their interests, they can work more on the metropolitan side of things. Like my side is more on climate actions, but they can also work again in the conservation side or even to the ocean team supporting them, and then they have a lot of different activities.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess one of the other things, this was not in part of the plans that I expected to ask. Since we're talking about youth, I'm wondering, I hear nowadays more and more Gen Z or Gen Alpha, they are, do I want to say they're more understanding towards sustainability and the environment impact? Kind of, but also not really. I almost feel like it's people that's born maybe at least in their 20s to 30s now and above. We feel climate change because we used to have winters. I used to need to wear down jackets in Hong Kong for the winter time, which I haven't done so in probably the last 4 or 5 years. I feel like some of the youth has forgotten those days. So they don't quite almost, when we say they should understand and it's for their future, and it's for everybody's future, but it's very much important for their future, because there might not be one if we keep going this way. But at the same time, I almost want to say sometimes it feels like they have the same attitude as adults who feels like, I'm not going to be here much longer. I'm not going to be here much longer, but it's more like, it is the way it is. Like, what do you mean there's no winter? There was never a winter, you know? So like, how do we get them to kind of start thinking, actually, the world can become better for you? And has the government or the public school system invited WWF into the schools to maybe give a little, because I know like the environmental studies is becoming more important. So are you guys playing a role in that sense?
Definitely. The schools like should have this STEAM project yeah. And then oftentimes a lot of teachers will reach out to us to explore collaboration with our organizations. And then they'll try to embed a lot of the environmental messages into their curriculum, or even if it's coming to university.
Right.
Well, at least myself have several times working with the service learning team, because university students need to undertake service learning before they get graduated. And then in order for them to really engage into the community and then serving the community, a lot of professors will reach out to us and asking for different topics or what tasks can be assigned to the student. And then I always tout down or nominate some of the environmental challenges, whether it's climate actions, whether it's increasing renewable energy, solar panels on the rooftop, or even simple as how can you reduce consumptions, that sort of topics. And then we always find that students are quite innovative in terms of coming up with proposals or solutions. Your views of Gen Z or Gen Alpha that they may not even experience winter, I agree with you. But having said so, I tend to feel like a lot of young people, they are ingrained with the environmental consciousness. We don't really need to lecture them that you need to do this, you don't need to do that. I guess they know everything, especially when nowadays is information overflow.
Yes, that's true.
Or at least if we get them interested in the subjects, they can search for so many answers in the internet. And later on AI. Although it may not give you the right answers. But if they are interested in the subjects, they can go through or do a lot of research on it, and then they know what to do. But what's more important is, I guess, we need to allow them or to give an opportunity for them to really demonstrate how they feel or what they think. Oftentimes, we ask students to come up with a proposal, and that's it. Or we ask them to enter into a competition, and then they do the presentations, and then we do the scoring, and then, okay, you win. That's it. We never allowed them or support them to really turn their proposal into reality.
Yes.
So I guess the more things that we can do would be allowing them to really make things happen. And only by making things happen, they learn.
Yes, that's so true.
And then only by making things happen during the process, they will suddenly aware that, well, it's not that easy.
Yes.
I think I can register, or I think I can just change it. And when they really go into the community and try to convince only one people to change their lifestyle, they would understand, wow, there's a lot of hurdles, there's a lot of barriers. Not that we want to get them discouraged. We want them to really face the reality. Then we think their solutions, we think their proposals.
Yes.
And only by that, we can have come to an agreement. It's not that elderly people or early generation saying that, oh, my experience helped me that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so your proposal is not working.
Yeah.
So
it just means to let them trial, and if it doesn't work, let it fail and see why it fails, and then you can build from that again on top. Yeah.
Right. Maybe they are so clever or they're so smart to find a niche market that can make it happen.
Yeah.
And then gradually replicate it, or the ripple just.
I saw one time on I don't remember if this was Hong Kong, but I think I must have that news article still open somewhere because I've been trying to find more info on it, but I've been failing to find any more info than the students won this competition. They won a competition to create some enzyme that will eat up old T-shirts.
I heard about that.
But then I can't find any more information. So it's exactly what you said. These students created something. It seems so wonderful, such a great idea. Won the competition. And then?
I'm not sure. I guess several years ago, a team of people, it's not students, but it's conscientious people coming to us saying that they have this startup kind of things. They want to create a new business and they want to grow these worms, and then these worms will eat up all the waste.
Yes.
And then they said that during the process, it will generate heat, and then we can recover the heat to generate electricity.
Yes.
And then I said, this spring bring is so good solutions. And then I bring it to my conservation director. I say, is this kind of projects that we can support? And then, unfortunately, we haven't proceed with that. But I'm not sure how. Well, they said that they have a base in somewhere in Yunnan. I'm definitely sure that the story is very impelling, and then I'm sure that they can find other supporters to proceed with their work.
Often I feel like we do see new innovations and solutions. It's often lost with time. I don't know if it's because it didn't work out, like there was problems, there were hiccups, or sometimes I feel like there's lobbyists that just doesn't want this to work.
But definitely this is one area that, well, I would say WWF would like to explore further, especially my team.
That's really good to hear.
Because we really want to crowdsource a lot of new ideas, because only the employee in WWF will not help solve the problem of Hong Kong. We need everybody's contributions.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I think what we've gone through so far it shows that there's still a lot to say. So we'll definitely have to revisit and come back to these topics. But before we end today, I'd like for you to give some advice to individuals on what can they do or what habits can they pick up on in their daily habits to what daily habits can they change to make their lifestyle more sustainable? What's something easy that we can all try to do?
I guess nowadays everyone knows about the what's the formal name of it? Waste reduction hierarchy or something like you know what I want to say? The avoid, the reduce, recycle.
Yeah. So first, it's reduce, reuse, upcycle. Now there's upcycle, and then recycle, and then downcycle.
Yeah, something like that. Well, I would say whatever word starts with R is good.
Yes, that's true.
And we think, and a lot of we. But well, I guess Hong Kong is being a very materialistic world. Everybody wants to go shopping, whether it's because of that materials, that goods, that products, or whether they just want to de-stress. I like to emphasize that they can actually ask themselves whether the things that they need or want. So think twice or 3 times whether that thing is you need or you want.
Yes.
And then even if it's what you need, you don't necessarily need to buy a new one. There's so many ways that you can get one. You may get it from secondhand markets. You may get it from Swatch. You may get it by borrowing from your friends. you may get it by exchanging it with other friends. So there's so many different ways that you can get available something that you really need.
Yeah.
And I still remember that it's already, again, many, many years ago when we worked with corporations to talk about business transformations.
Mm-hmm.
And then that company traditionally buy a lot of very low-cost goods from China and then export it to Europe and then selling it in the retailing market. And then when we talk with them about reducing resources use, reducing gas emissions, that all greenhouse gas emissions and all sort of things. And then they come up with these ideas that they don't want to continuously do the bulk purchase from and low-cost products.
Mm.
And instead, they created some renting models.
Yes, yes.
So as simple as they buy very, very cheap hammers from China, and then the consumers may use it to nail on the wall, and then they keep it in a drawer, and then when they want to nail another times, they may forget about their hammer at the drawer, and then they may go to the shop and buy another one again. And then they think that this is really redundant, and then they don't want to support such a behavior. And then they created this model like you just need to come and then buy the service. Either we lend you the hammer, or we have professional to come to your house and then to do the service work for you. And then, you know what? Always service will charge higher than just selling a product.
Yes.
And then it actually improved their profit.
And I guess it will improve their community too. Like they'll have repeated customers now because I need the service more than once.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess we as a consumers or just a general people, we can also always think from that way.
Yeah.
I need this products and then I buy it and then it's really low quality, low price one, and then I don't really like it and then I use it and then I throw it away.
Yeah.
While if it is a really good products that you invest into it, probably you will treasure it more.
Yeah.
Or even better, when you think of, I want to call Kay and ask for whether you can lend me a clothes that I need to dress it for event.
Yes.
Then you get connected with your friends.
Yes.
And then it's the kind of things that we never imagined that we want to do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we can rethink and now that we can really think out of box and then see whether we can practice this more.
Especially with technology nowadays being so easy, I can always just send you a message like, hey, I need something in a group.
Yeah.
Who has it?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it'll be really good for community building. It'll be really good for the environment. So it's just a win-win overall.
Right. Yeah. So just remember that doing good things, sustainable living is not that difficult, I would say.
It's not.
It's just bits and pieces that we can do together and then have fun.
Yeah. It's just about being a little bit more thoughtful, right?
Yeah.
A little bit more thoughtful, thinking a little bit deeper about how this may be good or bad for the environment, and then if you really need to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to have you guys back because we still need to go through how we should focus on helping corporates being more green too next time.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Karen.